It's time to talk about some mountain men. Let's review the first Wrong Turn. Let's go. Wrong Turn stars Eliza Dushku, Desmond Harrington, and is directed by Rob Schmidt. What is up, guys? The Wrong Turn remake, I think it's a remake, comes out in a couple weeks. January 26th, they're actually showing it in theaters, one night only. So I'm going to go see it, hopefully get a review out for you guys really quick. But I thought, you know what? Why not go back and watch and review the first Wrong Turn? I haven't seen it in quite a while. I've seen it quite a few times, actually. And I'm not a big fan of the franchise. I've only seen the first movie. So will I eventually review the rest of the movies in the franchise? Maybe. I'm not sure yet, okay? I tried to throw in part 2 the other night, and I watched like 10 minutes of it. And personally, for me, it was a sharp drop in quality from the first movie. It's not a fair assessment. Like I said, I only watched like the first 10 minutes, and I shut it off just because I had other things going. But eventually, I might review a couple more of the Wrong Turn movies. We shall see. Also, if you want a good review series for the entire series, check out Wolfman's Got Nards. He literally just reviewed the entire thing. So there you go. And you get another perspective from mine. But anyway, first off, quick plot synopsis. This movie opens with this couple and their mountain climbing, broad daylight. And then all of a sudden, the boyfriend makes it to the top. And then all of a sudden, he goes missing. And the girlfriend, her rope gets cut and she drops, and then she's pulled up to find her dead boyfriend, and of course she is killed by one of the mountain men. We'll get into the mountain men here in a minute. Anyway, this opening has nothing to do with the rest of the movie. It's really just kind of setting the table for this mountain men environment, what's going on here. I don't think the scene's really needed, to be honest, but a lot of these movies have to start out with something to grab you, and I think that was the purpose of this scene. Honestly, there's been far better opening scenes in horror movies, and this doesn't even come close, okay? And I hate to start you off with a con, but let's press forward. The real nuts and bolts begin when you have this car accident. Desmond Harrington, he plays Chris. He's going to this, I think he's going to like a job interview or something like that. And of course, there's this roadblock. This big traffic jam, and so he's got to get there quick. So he ends up taking this dirt road. Never take that dirt road, guys, okay? We've seen too many of these movies to know never veer off on the dirt road, all right? But he goes to the dirt road, runs upon this old hillbilly guy at this gas station. It seems like every one of these Lost in Seclusion road horror movies has one of these guys. He's kind of like the harbinger of doom, I guess, even though I don't think he actually warns him. But the guy gives him no information. And so eventually, he's driving along, and then, like I said, there's this car accident. Eliza Dushku plays Jessie, and she's with her friends. And so now, they're in this situation. Both parties, they don't have a car. And so they're trying to find the nearest address to get some help. And so they have two of their friends just stay behind. I guess they're there to see if somebody comes along and they can flag them for help. I can't knock them for that, because at this point, we don't know that there's mountain men danger. And so the other couples, they go together. And this movie does open up with a nice, gnarly kill, because this one couple, she's giving him a little bit of pants down fun time, and then they are both attacked. And the mountain man, he takes this barbed wire and wraps it around her head. And so I don't think he chokes her, because the barbed wire goes around her face, and it just like rips through. And so right away, you know what you're getting into in terms of horror. And I love that kill, actually. It's a fun kill. Might be one of my favorites. There's a few good kills in this movie, but let's press forward. Eventually, the other party, you have Carly and her boyfriend, played by Jeremy Sisto. We've seen Jeremy Sisto in quite a few things. He was a pretty heavily working actor back in the day, back in like the early 2000s. I liked him too. And funny enough, he played Jesus. But they end up at the mountain men's terrain, their house, I guess their evil lair. And nobody's there because they're all out doing what mountain men do. But then eventually, of course, the mountain men, they show up, and so they have to scurry, and they're hiding, and you got this really cool scene with Jessie and Chris under the bed. And this is where we first see the first victim with the barbed wire around her face. So from this point on, this group of friends, they are in deep, deep shit. They know they're in deep shit. They got these crazy hillbilly mountain men running after them. Drink every time I say mountain men. But there's this point where they're trying to get the vehicle, one of the mountain men's vehicles, because they scurry away. Chris gets shot in the leg, and he's like on the other side of the woods. And so Jeremy Sisto and the two girls, he tells them, hang back, I'm going to create a diversion, and then you guys run for the vehicle. And the reason I'm bringing up this scene in detail is because it is one of my favorite scenes of the movie. The two girls, they get in the vehicle, they got Chris. And by the way, Desmond Harrington, who played Chris, he literally broke his foot during that scene where they're running from the mountain men. And in the movie, he's shot in the left leg. But in reality, he broke his right foot. So they had to figure out a way to work around that, which must not have been easy at all. But anyway, they're in the truck, they're going down the road, they think they're getting free. And then all of a sudden, Carly sees her boyfriend, and he's running through the woods. This scene's just directed so well. As he's running, you know, it's one of those moments where the victims, they're so close to getting free. We've seen this scene a million times in these types of movies, and we always know how they're going to play out, but it doesn't take away from the enjoyment. I don't know why. It just makes it really fun. But he's running, and then all of a sudden, of course, the arrow, boom, just goes right through his freaking chest as he's running.
Stop! What are you doing? Scott, what's wrong? Scott! Scott! No! No!
That's a scene that's been played out so many times too. The person's running, and you know, if there's a guy with an arrow behind you, especially if it's a mountain man, you're dead. You're up shit creek. So the rest of the movie is Carly, Jesse, and Chris really just fighting for their lives. And it is really, really intense. This movie does have a lot of great stuff in it. It's not perfect by any means. It doesn't help that I recently gave the Hills Have Eyes remake another watch. That's a much better movie. But to be fair, that is one of the best remakes I've ever seen. This movie, honestly, I don't think it compares to that movie. But the one thing that does work well with Wrong Turn is the characters. And that's because Alan B. McElroy wrote the script. And I think Alan B. McElroy is a great writer for characters. He wrote Halloween 4. Halloween 4 arguably has the best characters in the entire franchise. I prefer the characters in Halloween 4 over the first movie. It just so happens the first movie is directed by the greatest horror director who ever lived. Alan B. McElroy is a fantastic writer. He's great at writing characters, and he created some cool characters for this. And since we're on John Carpenter actually wrote a script called The Prey, or I think it was just called Prey, and this was written before the Hills Have Eyes remake and before Wrong Turn, and it's very similar to those two movies. It's kind of a combination of those two movies because it does have the inbreds trying to mate with the victims, and that happened in Hills Have Eyes Part 2, actually. Did that happen in Part 1? I can't remember. I think so. And then in this one, the Mountain Men in Prey have more characteristics in line with Wrong Turn. They do. So I just find that interesting. It's a script that Carpenter wrote that never came to fruition, but here we are. Alan B. McElroy ended up writing a script for Wrong Turn. Also, regarding the actors, you can tell when actors put a lot into their work because there are a lot of accidents shooting this movie. You know, you had like a dislocated shoulder. The character who played Carly, there's a scene where they're in this like treehouse, I guess, and they fall from the treehouse on this branch. And I remember watching that scene like, there's no way in hell that they're living through that, or at least not walking away with some battle damage. And funny enough, in real life, she ended up dislocating her shoulder. I don't think she fell that far. You know, she probably fell onto a mat or something like that, but still, she dislocated her shoulder. I talked to you earlier about Chris and his foot. You know, stuntmen getting set on fire, just all kinds of accidents happened during the making of this movie. Most of the actors did their own stunts, and they came to play. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make, is all the actors in this movie, they really brought their A game, and the intensity is there in the performances. It really is. Also, I think the mountain men in this movie, I think they're very effective. I don't think they'll go down in history as some of the greatest villains ever created. Not at all. But I think they serve their purpose. And I think director Rob Schmidt, he made the most of, you know, the camera work and the lighting, because there's a few shots in there where you see the mountain men walking up, and you know, they're using the shadows very effectively to make these creatures look as scary as possible. Because I think when they're like lit up in the broad daylight, they don't look as scary, but at night, especially the freaking massive dude that looks like he's 7 feet. I don't know if that's Ken Kersinger playing that part because I believe he was one of the stuntmen in this, but that dude was scary as hell, actually. And it's cool that you got different flavors of mountain men, because then you got the other dude that just runs through the woods and he looks really weird and skinny and lanky. And just massive credit to Stan Winston. Stan Winston created these creatures. You know, it sucks that Stan Winston died a few years after this movie. But, you know, he put a lot of hard work, or his team put a lot of hard work into the creature effects. And the creature effects are a big strong point. But to me, I think the biggest strong point about Wrong Turn is the characters, for sure. Eliza Dushku is a great leading lady, final girl, whatever you want to call it. She's great. I loved her in the last act of this too. When you got the final showdown, you got Chris fighting the freaking big ass mountain man, and then Jesse saves the day with the bow and arrow. It's just a badass scene. It's one of those final acts that just goes for broke, and that's another strong suit of Alan B. McElroy. He really knows how to finish strong with his scripts. Now, as far as any cons, I do think they try a little bit too hard to force this relationship between Chris and Jesse because they're in an intense situation. But I don't think there's any like real big payoff in the end, you know, just kind of comparing it to like what they did in the first Terminator with Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor, you know. They drove it home with that relationship. And I believe like behind the scenes in the original script for this movie, there was like a sex scene between the two of them, or just a really intimate scene. I'm not saying you have to do that, but I think they just kind of left it blank. And also the treehouse sequence, I think there was a little bit too much use of like blue screen or something, because you could tell that they were on like a sound stage or something, which is fine. I mean, they always use sound stages in these types of movies anyway, but you still got to bring the realism. And I don't think that scene blends in with the rest of the movie as well, because most of this movie is set on location. And that's why you shoot movies on location, because you get the realism. And so that particular scene, it didn't completely take me out of the movie at all or anything like that, but it's just one little nitpick that I have with the movie. But overall, guys, giving Wrong Turn a strong purchase worthy. It's a fun movie, actually. And I have a feeling that the sequels, although not fair of me to say right now at this point, probably don't compare to the first movie. Let me know in the comments your thoughts. A lot of you guys have probably seen the sequels, so call me a liar. Let me know in the comments if you think that there's some sequels that are actually even better than the first movie, okay? Because I highly doubt it. I think it's a strong movie. Also, guys, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day on Fridays. We do Free for All Fridays. Follow my Drumdums on all my socials. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Drumdum out.